Looking at the suddenly cloudy sky, she wondered if it was going to rain. Lucy realized that where she was now was not the Arkan Mountains, but the Ramerlan Mountains in the north. She wondered if she was dreaming of her childhood, knowing that, Lucy thought, while she was dreaming of her past, maybe she might as well see that old man's face, and Lucy then walked towards the small house there. It was the house where her grandfather lived during his lifetime, but when Lucy saw her grandfather, she was then surprised. The atmosphere that she initially thought would be happy because she met the person she missed, suddenly turned tense, and her grandfather who was sitting in the chair, then turned towards her, with a horrible appearance like an evil spirit. Her grandfather then asked her, why didn't she save him, when she had the opportunity, why did she ignore him? Seeing that, Lucy realized that she had had a nightmare. Right after that, Lucy then woke up from sleep lethargically. Seeing that, a maid then asked her if she was awake. If so, she then asked her to get ready for school. But Lucy did not respond at all to hearing that. The maid was then confused to see that, without saying a word, Lucy then used high-level space magic. For some reason, she suddenly wanted to go to the northern forest. She landed on the roof of Ed's cabin. She also saw Ed, who had also just arrived there. Lucy smiled slightly at that. For some reason she felt relieved for no apparent reason. While looking at the sky, she wondered, will it rain? But her mood changed dramatically when she heard Ed suddenly say, so, this camping life might be over. Lucy was so shocked to hear that it made her fall off the roof of the cabin. With a feeling of surprise, Ed then turned to her. A professor at the academy then explained, cats are very unpredictable creatures. They never obey what we want. When we think they are comfortable with our touch, and we try to pet them, they act annoying. But, when we don't want to play with them or are busy, they just stick and spoil us. That's the nature of cats. If we want to tame them, the best way is to stop giving them attention. Ed was silent for a moment. He then just walked into the cabin without paying attention to her. The professor continued, for those who want to have a cat familiar or the like, he advised them to try to ignore them and act as if they don't care, and strangely enough, they will start to bother us first. Anyway, it is more challenging than romance. In the monster ecology class, these feline creatures are very surprising. The students seemed to enjoy listening to his explanation, taught by the experienced Professor Plubain. This class is very popular and favored by the students, so the students have high grades in this subject. At first, his grades were at the bottom, but afterwards, he was ahead of the lesson itself, and in fact, no one beats the completeness of his notes in any lesson. After a while, Professor Plubain then ended his class today, and while Ed was cleaning up, he was then surprised when Professor Plubain suddenly called him and asked him to come to his office for a while. When he got there, Professor Plubain asked him, he knows the academic scholarship program, right? Hearing that, Ed asked, isn't that a system where students receive a certain reduction in tuition fees by contributing to academic tasks? Professor Plubain confirmed that. He said it was a good opportunity for him. Ed asked again, what would those tasks require him to do? Professor Plubain replied, a variety of academic tasks, but mostly he would probably be helping Assistant Professor Claire. Professor Glast has a lot of work to do, so even though Anise is reliable, Assistant Professor Claire who replaces Professor Glast's position will have a hard time. Basically, for now, his job is the end-of-term evaluation, and during the vacation period, he will handle conference affairs, and at the end of the vacation period, he will also take care of the new students' classwork. He also asked him not to be too hard on the new students when he meets them later. Hearing that, Ed pondered for a moment. New students, so, that person will be attending school here as well. Looking at the sage's scroll that was now in her hand, Lortell was amazed at the extraordinary resonance of the mana, but she was looking doubtful at the moment. She doubted whether she really wanted to sell this to Crefin. Seeing Ed making such an excessive request, he doesn't seem to want Crefin to have this scroll. It makes Lortell's head spin. She bought this because it is for sale. She will lose money if she doesn't resell it. Lortell then confirms herself. She can't be lenient. Lortell has a motto to never waste what she can do today. With this sage's scroll purchase letter, she can ask anything from him, anything. Lortell paused for a moment while blushing at the thought. Her mood instantly changed to happy at this moment. She then decided to work on something else first. The announcement about the winter vacation was out. Without Professor Glast, she wondered, who would teach the class. She now also didn't have to worry about the cabin. It was the end of the semester, so it wasn't just her who was busy. Janica and Ed would also be very busy. As for Lucy, there probably wouldn't be any significant changes soon, so she didn't need to worry about it too much. But while Lortell was writing, she was confused. Why did she feel something was off? While Ed was doing his usual activities in his cabin, Lucy then said to him that they were running out of firewood. Ed was then confused to hear her suddenly say that. Lucy said that they would run out of firewood when winter came. Ed knew that, but he was confused why Lucy was so concerned about it all. Lucy then asked why he hadn't been hunting animals lately. Hearing that, Ed also realized he had been neglecting the cabin lately. It was because he was thinking of moving to the Dex Hall. If that happened, his interactions with Lucy will decrease. Ed wondered, could it be that the scenario would run more stable? As Ed pondered that, someone then came and called him. That person was Janica. Seeing her, Ed asked, had her class finished for today? Janica confirmed that Professor Mari's afternoon class was cancelled, so she came here to rest a little. They won't be able to stay in the cabin during the winter break, so she should stop by here as often as possible. Spending time here is very pleasant. Thinking that this lifestyle will end makes her a little sad. She really likes this cabin. Hearing that makes Lucy frown. Janica continued, it's a pity that they won't be able to visit the cabin again, but a comfortable living environment is very important to him, so if he is sure to move to the Dex Hall, she asked him to contact her. If he needs help, she will help him. Janica knows that she has a lot of work. Most of their classmates live in the Dex Hall, so they will see each other more often. If they meet in the cafeteria, she invites him to eat together. She usually eats early. But if Clara's schedule doesn't match her, Ehe usually eats alone. On the first day he moved in, let her show him all the facilities. She invited him to meet her in the morning. In addition, the study room is only available for 2 or more people. If he needs a friend, she asked him to contact him. Hearing that, Ed then remembered, it's time to open the secret safe in the library that Professor Glass said that time. As Ed pondered that, Janica then gave him a kind of letter. It was a registration form for the Dex Hall. Janica said, late registrants usually like to miss. So it's better to fill out the form as soon as possible and then think about it. Hearing that, Ed then thanked her for taking care of this. Janica said that she had already filled it out, so she invited him to fill it out together, at least starting from. But they were then surprised and confused when Lucy suddenly stood between the two of them and made a gesture as if separating the two of them. Her face looked anxious at this time. Sweat was pouring out of her body. Lucy asked them to stop. Ed could only feel confused at her strange behavior, with a feeling of anxiety. Lucy asked him not to touch it. Ed really didn't understand her behavior. While they were practicing spirit magic, Muggs said, gaining experience is definitely fun. Janica also praised his extraordinary development. His elemental resonance had already surpassed ordinary beginner elementalists, and his basic mana resonance was quite good. Seeing Lucy, who was watching them with an unhappy face, Janica then asked her, had she done something wrong? Normally, the maids in Ophelis Hall try hard to keep the students' appearance neat. But today there seems to be someone who escaped from the dormitory since dawn wearing only pajamas, with his mana already increased. Ed felt it was time for him to learn intermediate magic, but, while Ed was busy learning magic, Lucy suddenly clung to him, and not just at that time. Lucy also did that even when they were at the academy. Ed then confusedly wondered, why is she acting like this? Janica also noticed her strange behavior. She then said to her, if she had a mistake, she apologized. Okay. Ed felt that Lucy seemed aggressive, especially towards Janica. Rather, her expression was more like fear than anger. By the way, intermediate level magic turned out to be more difficult than he thought. Even after a day, he still didn't fully understand the basics. But when Ed was dizzy, Lucy suddenly called him. Lucy asked, what would he do in her absence? Ed said that he needed to go somewhere, had to check the bonfire and fireplace. The nights were getting colder to the point of shivering, that one could freeze to death. But if he moved to the Dex Hall, he wouldn't have to worry about this anymore. Still, before he left he had to finish his work first. Hearing that, Lucy called him back. She looked at him silently for a moment, and suddenly said, let's be together from now on. Ed was then surprised and confused hearing that.